let's chat empathy. Empathy is incredibly important in just everyday life with any type of human relationship and interaction, right? It's something that can really build better relationships and it can build more positive relationships, right? Now, let's understand empathy in the workplace, because at the end of the day, empathy in the workplace is incredibly important, especially when we're looking at anything to do with building a really positive team, especially if we're looking at like mental health, diversity and inclusion, equity. All of these things are incredibly important to have empathy. But let's say you're a manager and you have a team of people underneath you. Developing your ability to be empathetic towards your team is going to just set you apart from other managers, right? It's really important that you build these skills to make sure that you can better understand your team and provide better solutions and better coaching and just simply better management for those people within your team. All right, let's say you have a lack of empathy within your team. It's going to create a lot of in-house fighting. There's going to be a lot of toxicity. There's going to be a lot of competitiveness, right? So as a manager, you really have to understand, first things first, how do you become more empathetic? But then also, how do you teach that within your team? Because it can absolutely be taught and it can absolutely be learned. So that's what we're going to have a discussion about today. So first things first, let's just understand what empathy is, because you might be sitting here going, I've heard of empathy. I understand that it can be important, but I don't know what it is. So let's just clear that up. Essentially, empathy is being able to recognize emotions in other people and understand their perspective. So if you just break that down, it's really important to be able to understand your team and being able to solve problems together and really be able to understand people's perspective, which is so important, especially when we're looking at just communication, right? So what we're going to look at today is the steps that you can take to first things first is for you to become more empathetic, but also how you can teach empathy within your team. All right, step one is you need to develop empathetic listening. Now, the age-old saying, you got two ears, one mouth, kind of comes into play when it comes into empathetic listening. What you have to really understand with empathetic listening is to listen to understand and not to respond. So you really have to get a grasp of your own emotions and really make sure that you're not reacting to something that you're hearing. So it's being able to listen, to understand, pop your reactions and your emotions to the side, and we'll talk about that in a second, to be able to really hear what's being said. A lot of the times when communication breaks down, it's because of a misunderstanding. You're not seeing your from the other person's perspective, and you don't feel like you're being heard as well. So the first thing that you can do is to make sure that you're listening to really what's being said and to listen to understand. If you're not understanding, ask more quality questions in a kind way. Obviously, don't be judgmental in this situation, but asking qualified questions so you better understand the actual problem or what's actually going on, to really understand that person's perspective. So realistically, it's really trying to understand that person's perception to really understand how they've gotten from point A to point B. So listen to understand, not to respond. Step two, which is to better understand your emotions, but it could also be step one depending on where you're coming at it from. So if you have no understanding of your emotions, you're really reactionary, you say whatever comes out, you have zero filter, you might want to work on this first. But you really need to understand your own emotions. You really need to understand what triggers you. You need to understand your own stresses. You need to understand what things in relationships can trigger you into being angry, frustrated, mad, sad, whatever it is, right? Really understanding your own emotions. So the thing is, because if you're doing empathetic listening and let's say someone says something that you don't agree with or something that triggers you, right? You're no longer going to be listening to that person. You're going to be thinking about how this is making you feel. If you can get a really good understanding about what triggers you have and how they trigger you and how you react to those, you're going to have better control of it, because maybe you end up having like anger bubbling up. You're going to be able to recognize that. This is all internal, right? Recognize that, be able to go, do you know what? Let's pop that to the side for a second. I'll deal with you in a second, but I really need to listen to the person that's talking to me in front of me. So it's really a good idea for you to get a really good understanding around your own emotions, your own biases, your own triggers, right? It's really important. So therefore you can actually engage in empathetic listening and you are able to make sure that you're not reacting and you're being proactive and you're actually trying to see it from someone else's perspective. The thing is, our emotions can absolutely hijack us, which is going to make us reactionary. We're going to make assumptions. We're going to be we could become aggressive, all of these things, right, if we don't keep our emotions in check. So that step 2 is to really understand our own emotions, understand our own triggers, and understand how we react and what would be a more positive and proactive approach to that. Step 3 is to better understand your own beliefs, your own perceptions, and your own actions. So here's the thing, as humans, we all develop our own belief systems, we have our own biases, we have our own perceptions of situations. And what this can do is it can really create a sort of inflexible kind of belief system, which means that we can't actually see other people's perspectives. So we need to consistently be challenging our own beliefs, our own biases, and our own perceptions to better understand other people. So a really great way to be able to do this is to sort of write down everything that you believe, and this might take a bit of time, right? You might have unconscious beliefs, unconscious biases, and things like that, but write them down as you sort of go through. But understanding your beliefs and how they can show up in conversations, how they can make you react, and how they can contribute to your actions and your perceptions, and being able to break it down. Something that's incredibly important is to always make sure that we're checking in with our beliefs and our biases and making sure we're looking at it like a third person and really analyzing it, asking ourselves, is this something that can be changed? Is this something that's holding us back? Is this something that's impacting my ability to see someone else's perspective? Is this impacting my ability to communicate clearly with other people, right? So always checking in with our beliefs. It's fantastic to have beliefs. I just want to pop this in here because it is really important to have beliefs. But we want to make sure that those beliefs aren't impacting our ability to manage people, our ability to build relationships with other people, our ability to just show up empathetic towards other people, right? We don't want that to get in the way. If we feel like it is, it's really important that we take a step back and actually view our beliefs, understand how our beliefs can trigger an emotion or vice versa, and really understand how that's creating behaviors, actions, and perceptions around us, and how that could be impacting our ability to better manage people, or if you're working with a team, how that can be impacting the people around you in the team or impacting the team in general, right? So that would be the next step. Step 4 is to make sure that you can understand your own limits. So here's the thing when it comes to empathy. I think so many people talk about I'm an empath, I can relate to so many other people's emotions and all of these things, right? If you're an empath without boundaries, it's going to drain your energy, right? If you have absolutely no boundaries and all you're doing is taking on other people's emotions, seeing their perceptions, and you are not taking care of yourself, it's going to lead to emotional burnout at the end of the day. So making sure that you understand where you're at and what capacity you can give. There is nothing worse than being in a conversation with somebody where you really have no energy to give to that person. And it's completely okay to let that person know, hey, do you know what? I really want to listen to you. I really want to see your perspective. Right now, I'm just at capacity. Could we set this conversation to another day? Or is there actually somebody else that you might be able to speak to, and sort of help signposting that person on? But it's really important that you understand your own limits and what you can bring into the conversation and what energy you're also bringing into the conversation, and understanding how you can create those boundaries. At the end of the day, if you are constantly taking in other people's emotions, you're going to drain yourself. So making sure that you're checking in with yourself and understanding your own limits. Now, I actually did a video on setting boundaries as well. I'll link it in the video. I'll probably link it up here somewhere so you can see it. But that's something that's really important for you to understand how to set your own boundaries to make sure that you can maintain that empathy. And step 5 is to develop a no judgment zone. So here's the thing, as human beings, it's easy to say I'm not judgmental, but at the end of the day, a lot of us are judgmental. We might judge someone's appearance, we might judge the way someone talks, we might judge the way where someone goes to school, etc., etc. This again kind of links into our unconscious biases, but we want to make sure that we're not bringing them to the conversation. So having a no judgment zone is really, really important. So if you're starting to feel judgmental, make sure that you're firstly being aware of it, understanding where it's coming from, but also popping it to the side so you can remain empathetic towards the person that you're talking to. Now, within a team, it's really important that you have a no judgment zone. And so you guys might want to get together as a team and write down what people's perceptions of judgment is and how they want to handle it and how they want to communicate. So that's something that's really, really important. So this is a really good framework for you to use, for you to build your own ability to be more empathetic towards the people around you, but also starting to use these and creating behaviors and expectations within your team to help them be better understanding of other people's emotions and to better understand other people's perspectives, right? It's really, really important. So that's definitely some extra ways that you can make sure that you are personally building empathy, but you're also building empathy within your team. Now, just a quick little note. At the end of the day, this isn't going to happen overnight. You need to consistently be working on this. So making sure that you're consistently looking at it, you're refining it, and you're constantly checking in to make sure that you are making sure that you're taking care of your own emotions, making sure that you're setting boundaries, making sure that you're listening empathetically, making sure that you're just really aware of other people's perceptions, right? It's really, really important. So it's something that you can consistently work on. And I do recommend, once you've got this down pat, or if you want to work with your team, working with your team on it, it's going to create a completely different environment to make sure that you and your team are, one, going to enjoy coming into work, and two, making sure that you're succeeding together. Now, if you have any other questions, pop them in the comments below. If you have any other pieces of advice that you just want to add, make sure you add them to the comments below. Now, if you're somebody that wants to just build better self-development, or you want to manage your stress better, you want to manage your negative self-talk better, whatever it is, why don't you join the Get Your Shit Together membership? It's a month-to-month membership where you get access to a webinar, you get access to weekly group coaching, you get access to resources, you get also access just to the community where I'm actively involved in that, so you can ask questions and get a response, right? This is a place where people can definitely build up really positive behaviors and habits to make sure that they are managing their stress more effectively and building better relationships, and essentially just building up more confidence and all of those kind of things. So just join the membership if you want to. If you want a bit more information, the link is below also. If you want to know if you are struggling with stress and maybe you're close to burnout, why don't you take our burnout score just down below. That will give you a number of where you're currently at and a bit of advice around what you can do to make sure that if you are burnt out or on the road to burnout, some things that you can do to sort of reverse the clock and sort of go backwards, which is really important. And if you just want some extra advice and you just want to chat with me, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a conversation.